If women are drafted to the military, I am most excited to see the confrontation between commanding officers and the girls.
Between commanding officers and the girls? Oh dear.
Think we're going to let you yell at us? You think we're going to do something without a please and thank you?
Please allow me to introduce a little reality into this situation, because personnel in the military are under legal obligation to follow all lawful orders that they are given. And a please and a thank you are not required.
We've all had controlling ex-boyfriends. We know not to put up with that.
It's almost as if they're not understanding that it's not just men that are in positions of authority in the military.
Like, let's sit down and have a conversation about what you want and what I want, and we'll reach a happy medium. Because there's no way I'm doing what you want when you use that tone with me. You think you can push us around like you do with these men? Think again, baby. You're gonna learn some manners.
And I think one would learn very quickly that having a bad attitude and obvious problems with people in positions of authority wouldn't get one very far. But most importantly, the Uniform Code of Military Justice doesn't play.
It's time to give Lady J the credit she deserves. She didn't hold back and directly challenged the mindset of many modern women who proudly describe themselves as strong, independent, successful, and convinced they don't need a man.
I wanted to take you on a first date. How much would you want me to spend?
Wait for it. This will surprise some of you.
Less than $120.
That's right. And let's hear the common sense reasons why that is.
Why is $120 the max?
Because I don't really need anything. I can eat at Cheesecake Factory, Chili's. I can eat anywhere. Like, it's just food. Like, you could go to a taco spot, a food truck, and still have an amazing day. It's an amazing date. It's just about the connection and getting to know the person. The money shouldn't be a thing when you're going out to eat. You know, you could use that for something else.
Now that is absolutely true.
And steak is not going to make me fall in love with you or be more interested in you. Absolutely not.
Exactly. Just imagine if more women had that perspective.
What's going to make you fall in love then?
The way he acts, the way he treats, if he's opening the door, how he carries himself, how masculine he is, the way he dresses.
She is not wrong.
Is there ever a point in time where a man should come to you about a decision, or should he handle it on his own all the time?
It depends. I feel like a very masculine man doesn't need my advice because he should know what's right from wrong. We always want to give you guys our point of view because, you know, we have instincts as women. So we tend to feel and see things in a different form than you guys, but not 100% like taking advice from.
Although this type of mindset does seem to be a rarity these days, it is rather encouraging that it still exists.
This is the biggest red flag in a guy. He lives with his mom. Valid.
But yet so many women don't seem to have a problem with men that still live with their wives.
Why do men not understand hints?
Hints. Why give hints? Would not the best solution just to be direct about what one wants so that there's no possibility for confusion, instead of beating around the bush, being indirect, and somehow magically expecting a man to be able to read one's mind?
Why do I have to spell everything out?
Serious question. Is the yelling helping at all? Is it helping to convey what one wants? Or is it just showing that one is frustrated and is unable to communicate effectively?
Why can't you just one simple little hinting at this? Understand what I'm trying to say? I don't want to have to spell everything out like I'm your mother.
Well, do allow me to spell this one out. The best way for someone to understand what one actually wants would be, firstly, use those words. Make sure that they actually understand what one is wanting. Be upfront. Be honest. And by all means, stop expecting people to be mind readers.
Does height matter?
Of course it does.
Well, everyone has their preferences, but I really don't think they appreciated this next part.
Step on the scale.
I'm not going to scale. You should love a girl for who they are.
You should love a guy for who they are, regardless of height.
That's true.
Right, that is true. But wait.
So take it back.
I'm not taking it back.
Step on the scale.
No.
You're being a coward.
Wait, you're ridiculous.
Hold on. By this logic, it's not okay to care what your partner's weight is, but it's absolutely acceptable to care how tall they are. What?
You need to know an exact number.
You don't need to know an exact height.
All you gotta know is that they're taller than me, and that's it.
Okay, I want you to be lighter than me. Step on the scale.
No.
It's almost too funny, isn't it? The fact that in society it's highly encouraged for women to have strict dating standards in regards to what the men they choose to date look like. But it's often frowned upon if men have standards in regards to what the women that they choose to date physically look like. I wonder why that is.
I have a genuine question for white women.
And what question is just for white women today?
When you guys meet somebody new and you do this thing,
That thing is otherwise known as a smile.
is it something that you guys are taught at home? Are you raised to see that facial expression as being polite?
Where is this going?
Because from where I stand, it's just you leading with fakeness. And it is a generational thing. So
Really? Why exactly is this only applying to women that happen to be white?
that's why I'm trying to understand where that comes from. Because honestly, you do not have to do something that you don't want. You don't have to smile at me if you don't want to. You don't have to greet me if you don't want to. You don't even have to look my way if you don't want to.
Thanks for that, I guess.
But you doing that thing, it formulates my perception of you, and that is that you are fake because you're constantly leading with fakeness.
Someone mark this one off the bingo card.
So I want to understand where it comes from. Is it something that you guys are raised with? Is it seen as polite? What is it?
Am I correct in my understanding that one is saying that it's only one demographic of women that smiles at others that they may encounter throughout the day? And the fact that, yes, I actually have to explain that it is considered to be polite, and smiling as a way to actually often put others at ease, really should put all of this in perspective. There are individuals out there complaining and saying that it's fake for another person to try to be polite to another. Let that sink in.
I honestly don't think some people realize how far things have gone. Someone smiles at you, and somehow that's treated like a problem. When did a simple, friendly gesture become something to complain about?
I am the problem.
Oh, good. Maybe this is a sign that some personal accountability is actually being taken.
I went on a date with this guy,
Okay, go on.
and he was like, "It's getting late. Do you want to come back to my place?" And I was like, "Sure, but I'm not going to sleep with you. Like, that's not happening." And he was like, "That's totally fine. Just come over."
Oh, good. Mutually agreed upon boundaries have been set. So what's the problem?
Go to his place. He respects my wishes. He's so nice. He cuddles me all night.
And go on.
And I'm like, "Are you gay?"
What? A man acted like a gentleman, respected the woman's wishes, and now he's what? Explain.
I just wanted him to like try, and then for me to be like, "No." You know what I mean?
So you wanted the guy to completely disregard your boundaries. Right. More mixed signals than a broken stoplight.
I wasn't going to sleep with him. I just, now I feel ugly.
And that's not his fault. That's a self-confidence problem.
This is what...
Indeed. By the way, that was probably one of those good guys that one has spent so long wondering where exactly they're at.
So apparently there's a male loneliness epidemic right now.
Why is that funny?
Is this the consequences of your own actions?
Oh, I see. This is apparently another one blaming men for everything.
Wait, I'm sorry. We're addressing men's issues, so this is a serious matter.
Should it not be? Or does one just consider men's issues to be irrelevant?
There's a therapy app for that. You know, cats are an option.
Speaks the voice of experience.
I can confirm having a cat helps. It helps. So, you know, you might want to grow old with your cats or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like I said.
Have you tried just, like, picking better women?
Well, I guess we all know who's disqualified from that pool of choices.
Maybe if you just didn't let yourselves go. You know, you gotta stay tight. This ad said that you could save 15% or more on your loneliness by being nice.
Guess someone's not getting that discount.
Have you tried life with a side of respect? Like,
the irony's just beautiful here, isn't it?
And finally, here's the real shocker. Okay, are you okay? Have you tried looking at women as actual human beings and equal? I'm just a thought.
That is a good thought. Now try applying that to men as well.
Should I start a fight?
Over what?
A few months ago, my boyfriend got me this flower subscription, so now every single month someone shows up to the door with a beautiful bouquet.
That actually sounds rather sweet. But what exactly is one debating starting a fight about?
First couple months, I was like so sweet, obsessed. Today, the guy comes with the bouquet. He was like, "Oh my god, yeah, the flowers from the subscription." This man completely forgot he was paying for this and subscribed to it. So I was like, okay, is this sweet or is this just him being lazy? Do we respect him for thinking smarter, not hard? Or does he need to buy flowers individually every single month?
Seriously? That's the point of contention here? That the man subscribed to a flower delivery service to make sure that the woman that he was in a relationship with had fresh flowers delivered on a regular basis. But yet some women will actually find a reason to put their ungratefulness on full display in addition to their entitlement. Because remember, a person isn't entitled to gifts from a person they're in a relationship with. Gifts are given because the person wants to do so. And seeing videos like this, it's no small wonder that a large number of men have just given up. Because no matter what they do, it's never enough. Because someone is actually contemplating starting a fight, thinking that their man was lazy for subscribing to a flower delivery service. I'm not even surprised anymore. I believe that we may have found another one.
Say I wanted to take you out on a first date. How much should I spend on it?
Their answer is probably going to surprise a lot of you.
Whatever you can afford on the date. Doesn't matter to me.
Have any expectations?
No, I just want you to be thoughtful with whatever you put together.
Excellent.
I'll pick you up. Let's get slushies at Sonic drive-thru.
Okay, that's fine. We have a conversation, we talk, we get to know each other. I'm fine with that.
It's almost like that's the purpose of a first date, isn't it?
We could watch Black Mirror on my phone and prop it up on the dashboard.
It's a memory, it's an experience. I'm fine with it.
Love it.
So why do so many women tend to want guys to drop the bag on them and, make it a big thing?
That's a very good question.
I don't know, I think that's what the industry promotes, social media, everything we watch promotes. But I don't know, I can't answer for them. I just know kind of what I've been taught, what I value, so it's kind of what my answer is.
What gave you that mentality?
I don't know, I think if you have these expectations of things you can't always control, then it just gives you more stress and anxiety. So why worry? Just kind of let it happen and see where it goes.
So gentlemen, be reassured, there are actually still women out there that don't expect you to drop a ton of money on the first date. They still exist.
Leave women alone.
But men are already doing that. Or hasn't one noticed? But I find it odd that some women want men to leave women alone, except when they need their support in something. And then they complain, why aren't the men speaking up?
Stop telling us what to do with our hair.
Frankly, I cannot remember the last time a man told me what to do with my hair. In my experience, it's almost always some of the women who are so concerned with what other women look like.
Stop telling us what to do with our bodies.
Like what? Don't rack up a high body count? Because a great many men and women find a high body count rather unappealing. How dare some men tell women to pay attention to their own morality?
Stop telling us how to dress.
Really? From what I've seen, some women should be told that what they're wearing is often inappropriate.
Leave us alone.
And when they finally do, what then will one have to complain about?
This is the mixed message that frustrates so many people. 1 minute it's, why don't men approach anymore? The next it's, where are all the good men? Then the conversation shifts again. No matter what men do, it seems like they're criticized either way. It's hard to see how anyone can come out ahead.
Men, how are you not embarrassed when you ask a woman to split the bill or to go 50-50 in a relationship with you?
And why exactly would they feel the need to be embarrassed? It's almost like they've been listening to a large amount of women that say they're independent and can do things on their own and want to be treated as equals. But then when the subject of relationships and dating comes up, no, then they want to be taken care of.
But I'm truly asking this question. Why are you not embarrassed as a man to want a female to buy into a relationship? Because that's the way I'm looking at it. When you ask a female to pay for her way in anything and everything, you are saying to her, you need to buy your way into a relationship with me.
But wait, doesn't that mean if the man pays for everything in the relationship, then he's bought his way into that relationship? Oh dear.
And no, it does not go the other way. And let me tell you why it does not go the other way.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
Because a man providing financially and taking care of a woman, guess what you get in return?
What?
Peace and softness and caring and love, like just love. When you ask her to contribute to a relationship and you ask for that, you are asking her to give 150% while you're contributing 50%.
It rather sounds like one is implying that the only thing a man has to offer in a relationship is money.
And then y'all get mad that a woman's not giving you what you want because you're asking her to basically be a business partner in your little relationship. I'm not wrong.
Sure about that? Because the only way that that would actually be possible is if legitimately men only had money and financial stability to contribute to a relationship.
Okay, listen, am I the only woman who thinks that basically everything is cheating?
No, absolutely not.
Call me crazy, call me insecure, call me whatever you want, but basically anything is cheating.
Okay, let's hear some examples.
If you're texting another woman, if you're looking at another woman, if you're thinking about another woman, and I think that I can read your mind, it's cheating.
Right, so far so good.
Dream about another woman, cheating.
Yeah, no issues here.
I don't care if it's a coworker and you go to lunch together, cheating. I will drive my car through the front door of that Mexican restaurant and park it at the front of your table.
My goodness, if insecurity had a face.
So if you value your life, innocent bystander's life, your coworker's life, your friend's life, if you value anything, I would highly advise you not to do that because it's cheating. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm insecure. I mean, I know I'm crazy. I don't know about insecure, but this sounds a little insecure now that I'm repeating it back to myself.
Yeah, go with that feeling.
Whatever, I don't care. I will park my car in the lobby of the Mexican restaurant. Hope you enjoyed your margaritas. Not today. Nope.
Ladies, if you happen to be that insecure in a relationship, you really shouldn't be in a relationship.
Yesterday I was supposed to hang out with this guy, but it was getting kind of late, so I texted him and I was like, hey, it's kind of late, like maybe we should just like rain check.
Okay, rain check. No big deal, right?
And he responded saying, okay, sounds good.
Sounds good, but I'm sure this is not the end of the story.
Excuse me?
And here it comes.
And I was like, what, LOL? And he's like, you proposed to reschedule, like it's a bit late for you, said I was like respecting your boundaries and like, yeah, we can meet up another time.
Wonderful. A guy is respecting her boundaries. But there's more.
And I was like, you think you're funny? You're supposed to respond saying, no, I need to see you. I'm outside. Your doorman's blocking the door. Like, what?
Oh, I get it now. There's games apparently to be played, and one seems upset that the guy is not playing along.
He was like, wait, why are you mad that I was just like listening and like respecting what you wanted? And I was like, exactly.
Exactly what? Respecting boundaries is apparently a bad thing now? I'm beginning to believe that some women are single-handedly trying to convince the entire male population that in fact they are better off single. Because if you want to play games, ladies, play by yourself.
How much an alpha man should cough up for a wedding ring?
An alpha man? Oh, I can't wait to hear how much an alpha man should spend on a wedding ring.
From my understanding, a guy should be spending 3 months' salary on a ring.
Traditionally, that has been customary. However, that is not at all required. A lot of women are very happy with rings that cost a lot less. However, I'm sure that there's more to this.
So if that isn't 6 figures, you probably shouldn't be getting married.
Holy classist mentality, Batman. To actually have the audacity to say that if a person doesn't make 6 figures in 3 months, then they have no business getting married. Is one not aware that the average American doesn't even make 6 figures in a year? I guess there's a lot of people, in one's opinion, that shouldn't be getting married. But there's more.
Like, if he's not spending that, does he really love you, or does he just want a hot trophy wife?
What? Now, how exactly did that make any sense? But moreover, it's my opinion that any woman that would expect a man to spend 6 figures on her wedding ring is not after the man himself for who he is. She's only after his money.
Many modern women are putting every part of their private lives on display for public attention. Then they're surprised when they're judged mainly by what they choose to show. After that, they wonder why some men don't see them as long-term partners or consider them for serious relationships.
What else should be illegal for men to do?
What should it be illegal for men to do this time?
I promise this will be the last one.
I highly doubt that.
They should not be able to open their mouths. That's it. Jail! No possibility of parole either, baby.
Of course. That makes perfect sense after all, especially in today's society where personal sensitivity is at an all-time high, where because some men say things that upset some women, naturally it's the most logical course of action to jump on the popular bandwagon of making videos disparaging men, because that's what we do now. Instead of just ignoring things that we don't like or actually posing some kind of logical counterargument, no, instead we say things like this, that it should be illegal for men to open their mouths, simply because individuals lack the personal fortitude to be able to withstand opinions that they don't happen to like. Oh yes, the future is bright, indeed, isn't it?
I think that men need to toughen up, and I think if men were forced to be homeless, they would learn how to be better men.
Say what?
Because that's what made men manly in the past, was having to build houses and stuff.
And stuff. Yeah, that's not what made men manly.
If we just made men be homeless for like a year, I think it would fix a lot of problems.
That would
in
be
society.
so good, especially because we don't force men to do military anymore like they used to. They make them homeless for a year. Let's see how they.
Yeah, make them just figure it out.
What? No. They can't be serious.
And make them homeless in a country where they don't know the language, and that way they really have to go through something, and then maybe they can like
be appreciative.
Wait, so what if we apply that same logic to women to toughen them up a little bit and give them a good dose of the reality that they actually live in? You know, take their rights away for a year so they can actually understand how not oppressed they really are in this country. Oh, wait, that probably wouldn't go over very well, would it? No. But then again, hearing stuff like this come out of some women's mouths does make me really appreciate how some can actually perceive women as illogical and irrational.
Some of my guy friends gave me permission to make a Hinge account for him.
And why is that?
Because I was telling him how easy dating is with dating apps. And he was telling me that it's incredibly difficult. And I was like, Pete, you must be doing something wrong. And he gave me permission to create an account for him and just run the account.
And how is it going so far, being a guy on a dating app?
I've been a virtual boy for 3 days. And I've never felt this bad about myself. I feel like a freaking loser trying to get these girls to like me. And I'm starting to hate women.
Oh dear, it doesn't sound like it's going very well at all, but let's hear what's going on.
Pete's about a 6. But I'm so desperate, I'm liking the 2s and the 3s, and even they won't like me back, Pete, which is a 6.
Gee, I wonder what could be going on here.
So what level of delusion has entered women's heads? Like, what is going on? It is so difficult dating as a boy. I hate it. I'm on day 3 of being a boy, and I hate women, and I'm more depressed than ever.
That is truly unfortunate, and I am genuinely sorry to hear that. But in my opinion, this is just a reflection of the times that we are currently living in, which so many people, in this case, a great many women, are very heavily influenced every single day by what they see on social media, that they are absolutely convinced that they all should be going for the same group of men, the ones that are considered to be 10s by most of society. And unfortunately, they are missing out on a lot of great opportunities because just because a guy doesn't look like a 10 doesn't mean that he might not be an actual 10 in regards to what type of person he is and his personality.
If a man can't spend $75 or $100 on a first date, he just shouldn't be dating.
A person shouldn't feel entitled to have a gentleman spend a certain amount of money on them just to prove that they're interested. But I'm sure there's more to this.
If a man wants to take you on a walk or go for coffee on the first date, say no thanks and move on.
And listening to this type of advice is a good way to be saying in a few years, where are all those good men at?
If you're a woman and you're not yet 20 or you're in your early 20s right now, you are setting the dating standard.
And it's setting a standard that says that a lot of the women out there that listen to this type of advice are only after a man's money.
Do you think the guy that spends $4 on you for the first date for a coffee or for a cookie is going to be an overflowing fountain of effort and enthusiasm for you moving forward?
And who's to say he won't? Actually, it says a lot more about a guy that is careful with his money rather than someone who just flings it around hoping to impress someone. But what do I know?
And what do women commonly do to get ready for a first date?
Oh, and here comes that argument again.
New outfit, nails done, hair done, maybe buy some new makeup or perfume or jewelry.
So what that's saying is, I guess some women really only do that for the men, and not for themselves, as many would like to have us believe.
Jesse, it's not about the money. On the first few dates it is. On every date moving forward it is.
And there we have it. I guess really nothing more need be said here.
Women who can divorce their husbands, I'm gonna need you to do it today.
Interesting. I do wonder where this is going.
And who can't divorce their husband? Look up Aqua Tofana.
What?
I didn't say to do anything with it. I just said to look it up.
Right. Because that type of message isn't the least bit disturbing. At all.
Every time we go to Walmart, we can scuffle some shit every time.
Class at its finest. Bragging about liberating items from a store while walking by a police car. It doesn't get better than that, does it?
It's free 99 for me. Look at me.
Free 99. Isn't that cute? Unfortunately, that's just not the case for people that actually choose to follow the law and aren't so full of self-entitlement that they think it's okay to take items from a store without paying for it and then brag about it on social media. And for those that are possibly of the opinion that maybe this person just can't afford the basic necessities and is just trying to get by and support themselves and their family, there's this.
Go get your hygiene up for the free. Just go get it. Shut up. It's giving broke, but this is what I'm finna go spend.
Seems like money wasn't the problem there, was it? More so just a good old-fashioned case of self-entitlement, combined with an utter disregard for the law and a complete lack of respect for others.
Let me just tell you something. I don't know what the deal is with, like, men now.
What is wrong with men this time?
But I had told him prior that I will be having pre- and post-date expenses, and is that okay, and are you going to cover them?
Ah, yes, there's nothing quite so charming as a woman charging a man for her time.
I don't know if he wasn't listening or, like, what the deal was or whatever.
Maybe he thought one was kidding, joking around, because who would honestly take that amount of entitlement seriously?
But when I handed him the white envelope, he looked shocked.
Gee, I can't imagine why.
Then he opened it, and it's receipts. Hello. Pre-post-date expenses. Hello. Like, what kind of females do you be dating?
Probably the type that don't normally charge by the hour.
So I handed it to him, and he literally looked shocked at me and said, I can't cover this. It was $478 for pre- and post-date expenses.
In terms of great investment ideas, something that comes off in less than 2 minutes of soap is not the best thing to invest $478 in.
You asked me on a date, and mind you, we really didn't even have that good a conversation because he was on his phone the whole time, and I have a very strict no phone policy on dates. Hello, you're here to pay attention to me. Look at all the effort that I had to put into going on this date, and now you have a problem with pre- and post-date expenses?
If only some individuals put the same amount of effort into their personalities as they did to their outward appearances, some might not be on their phones.
It's surprising how comfortable some modern women are with putting themselves on display online. But when people form opinions based on what they openly share, they become upset and question why they're being viewed that way.
So then why aren't men protected from emotional the same way women are protected from physical?
That is a very good question. Let's hear their answer.
Because men are idiots.
Really? Oh, okay. Let's hear more.
Emotional is worse? No. Emotional is worse than physical.
It is.
Okay, considering that statement, what could be the next possible logical question?
So then if emotional is worse than physical,
Yes, so
wouldn't men deserve protection more than women?
They would. They should.
Agreed. Men should absolutely be afforded the same levels of protection that women are when it comes to forms of... But let's hear someone's opinion in regards to why men are not getting those levels of protection.
But they're not smart enough to fight for it.
Really? Sadly, that is not an uncommon thought process when it comes to this particular subject, and it is unfortunate that this is being perpetuated. Unfortunately, a lot of men have been shamed into thinking that they would be considered weak if they seek help. That is not the case. Remember, no person deserves to be, whether it's emotional or physical. Please seek help if you need it.
Do you judge a guy based on height? Does height matter?
That is such a good question.
Yeah. It does?
Yeah.
But there's this.
They can't choose whether or not they get to be tall.
Well, someone else will love them, not me.
Oh, well, that makes everything okay then, doesn't it? But wait.
So I judge based on things that you can change.
Based on things we can change. Now, there's a radical notion. Let's hear it.
For example, how much makeup you wear. So I got some makeup removing wipes because I love...
No, get the fuck out of here.
Oh, that didn't go over well, did it?
What the hell? Why would you want to take off my makeup?
Oh, I don't know, to see what they really look like.
Because you're judging guys based on height.
You can see my face.
I can't. You got a whole mask on.
Well, that's very true. But if you think that's funny, just wait.
Does height matter in a guy?
I think we already know what the answer to that question is going to be.
Yes, it does.
It does?
What is the skill?
Because I think weight matters.
Oh, look, something else that a person can, for the most part, control. I wonder how that'll go over.
Height don't matter.
Well, that was fun. I know I always enjoy watching some individuals get upset over being shown their own double standards.
Men do not know how lucky they are when a girl actually likes them.
Something tells me that men are about to be told why that is.
Like, do you know how many unanswered texts I have in my phone?
No, but I'm sure that one is going to try to make that relevant somehow.
From men who I take literal days, if not weeks, to respond to.
I kind of have to wonder about the quality of men that one is so obviously just stringing along what seems for entertainment purposes. What exactly is the benefit to them waiting around for someone who obviously doesn't care enough about them to text them back?
Do you know that the fact I'm responding to you the same business day is a privilege?
A privilege, is it? It's definitely not the word that I would choose.
I don't think they do. I don't think they know.
Well, they definitely know now what a privilege it is to be on someone's roster who only responds to them when they get bored or lonely enough. I wonder, does the same apply to men that keep rosters of women? Or is that somehow different?
So you really decided to take me out on a date to Subway?
What's wrong with Subway?
Do you not have money for something nicer?
What a polite question to ask on a first date.
I thought we were gonna go do something else like this.
I do have money. I just don't have high faith in you.
Oh my.
Why would you say that?
I feel like you're in it for the money and not for me.
Of course I'm in it for the money.
Well, never let it be said that they weren't being honest.
See, that's why I brought you to Subway. To see what your true character was.
I got dressed this morning. I got up and I got ready and I took a shower and I did all the basics just to come somewhere nicer.
Are they trying to say that they wouldn't have done that otherwise?
And where do you work?
Papa John's.
That makes sense. Let me guess, you're a delivery driver?
Yes.
Pitiful.
The phrase, those that live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, comes to mind.
I don't think you should be worried about dating. I think you should be worried about your light bill. Because clearly you couldn't take me somewhere nicer, so I'm not interested.
Well, don't they seem just charming?
You work at fucking Papa John's.
Because I would give you anything you wanted.
But a date to Subway, huh? You know, that really proves to me how much you wanted me and how much you valued my time.
I wanted to get to know you.
At least that part, it seems, is going rather well.
Why does it matter when I take you? I don't have to take you to a steakhouse just to get to know you.
Give me my phone back.
Are you recording? You think this is funny?
Give me my phone back.
I don't think this girl deserves me.
And I, for one, am inclined to agree.
I just need to know from a men's perspective, are y'all waiting on girls to talk to you first? Like, are you waiting on a girl to ask you on a date first?
I would say that, by and large, a lot of men would be pleasantly surprised if a woman actually made the first move.
Because that's crazy to me.
Why? When this...
Point is, leave women alone. They don't want you.
...is the type of thing that countless men see every single day pushed on social media.
Like when you're out in public and you're making eyes with a girl and you're like making it known that you're attracted to her, but you're not going to say something. How are you not going to say something?
Because they keep hearing things like this.
Stop stalking them, putting them in vulnerable situations to try to get in their pants.
Is it becoming clearer yet?
Where are the huevos? Where are the huevos these days?
Oh, the huevos still exist. They're just playing it safe and avoiding individuals with this type of mentality.
Each one of you are going to go to hell.
And what man in his right mind wouldn't want to approach that?
My men to be assertive and dominant. If you want to say something to me, say something to me.
I think a lot of men are honestly just confused because that type of behavior has been called toxic masculinity.
I'll give you the opportunity. I'll put my phone down. I'll drop the handkerchief. But I'm not going to do it first.
Of course not. Because after all, that would just be too easy.
Where are the men? What happened?
That is a really good question.
I don't know who's to blame.
I could think of a couple possible answers in regards to who's to blame, as I'm sure we all could.
Men don't want to be men anymore.
It's not that they don't want to be men anymore. It's that they've been told over and over again by society and various other groups of people that they're full of toxic masculinity, and the traditional ways in which many men behave is no longer wanted by a large number of people.
I feel like we're around a bunch of Peter Pan. What happened to men and values and family?
What motivation do men really have to act like men when all they get in return is condemnation, criticism, and disparagement?
Taking care of their women and just being the man and the protector.
Let's not forget the large number of women out there that are constantly saying,
I don't need a man. I don't need a man for nothing.
So yeah, that's what's happened to men.
I'm here to say one more thing.
Oh, goody.
I just had to drag my AC out of my car to my apartment building. 3 guys passed me. None of them offered to help.
Why should they? Women are strong and independent. They can do everything on their own.
None. 0 out of 3. Why? Because you couldn't lift it? You were too scared to lift it? Is that why? Am I intimidating? Am I more masculine than you?
No, that's not what it is at all. But let's take a moment to think about how many women, thousands upon thousands of women, are saying every single day that in fact they don't need men. They don't need them at all. In fact, they're saying sometimes that the world would be better off without men. But apparently, some women still need men for grunt work. I should think that they would be grateful that men are finally listening to their wishes, ideas, and their feelings. But apparently not when it comes to lifting heavy objects.
Here's a thought. When people talk about safety, many modern women say they want men to be protectors, providers, and dependable members of the community. But how often do they show that same level of kindness to the men around them? For example, if a woman notices a man who looks like he could use a home-cooked meal, does she ever offer to make one? If she's buying coffee, does she ever pay for a stranger's drink just to brighten his day, without expecting anything in return? Small acts of appreciation can go both ways. Instead, the argument is that many modern women expect others to do things for them, while rarely feeling the need to return the same kindness.
This comment right here.
And what about that comment?
I really don't think that he's speaking for all men.
Of course, there are always exceptions, but they are most certainly speaking for the vast majority of men.
Because I know that there will be somebody that steps up one day to be some sort of father figure for my child.
It's very possible. However, do bear in mind that women with children are not at the top of a man's dating priority list. They are in fact near the bottom.
It's also I'm very surprised that you felt comfortable actually typing this out and commenting on someone's video.
I'm actually surprised that one didn't already realize that most men actually felt that way.
It's just the wildest thing.
No, it's not. It's actually almost common sense.
You don't know my circumstances with my child, or his father.
Well, that's true. Not every single mother has 2 or 3 baby daddies, and some single mothers are the product of being widowed or are divorced. However, the fact remains the same that most men do not want to raise another man's child.
Yeah, that's basically it. So, hopefully he's not speaking for all men out there, but this was just really disappointing to see.
Reality often can be very disappointing, can't it? But no, unfortunately, that person does actually speak for the majority of men.
The worst text to send a girl.
Any guesses on what that could be?
The morning text. Good morning, sweetheart. How are you doing? Hope you slept well. You're basically saying you're a simp. That text is not masculine.
Wait, I thought that was one of those bare minimum texts.
Is not a good text.
And why is that not a good text?
It shows needy.
Needy? How so?
It just shows that I was thinking about you and I was hoping your morning was going well. That's not what you want to come across as.
Let me get this straight. A guy is now not supposed to come across as caring about someone else. Got it.
Always remember, texting is only to set up the date.
Since when?
Men fall into this trap of sending good morning texts, sending texts like, hey, how was your week? And wanting to talk and have these big elaborate conversation over text.
Oh, how awful. Having elaborate and in-depth conversations with another person via text message. What has the world come to?
But what happens is you fall into friend zone or you become her pen pal.
After hearing that, it's no small wonder to me why, after men have been receiving so many different bits of advice and mixed messages when it comes to what to do and how to do it when it comes to dating, it's no small wonder that so many men have just decided to throw in the towel and give up on it altogether. They just can't win, can they?
Men be like, I don't like women who wear makeup.
Yes, that's true. Most men actually prefer a woman that doesn't wear a whole lot of makeup. They would rather see the natural beauty rather than the one that the makeup created.
Oh yeah? So why is the makeup industry still a thing?
I would have thought that the answer to that would have been completely obvious, but I guess not.
Why is it recession-proof, pandemic-proof, literally thriving and growing every year?
Let's be very honest here. It's because women, who are the primary users and purchasers of makeup, continue to buy it. No matter what their personal financial situation happens to be, there's almost always room somewhere in the budget for makeup. And that's because society, and by society I mean other women, have convinced women that they only can look their best if they have makeup on, that they're somehow not complete if they're not wearing it. In fact, there are many women that will not even consider leaving the house unless they're wearing some sort of makeup. But let's not get it twisted. It's not men that are convincing women to wear makeup. It's other women. So that's why the makeup industry continues to grow.
Men should always pay on the first date, and this is why.
Okay, let's hear why. Spoiler alert, it has to do with how much money they spent on making up their face.
There's about to be $2,000 on my face, so...
How much? Oh dear. Now let's see why it costs almost $2,000 to put on one's face.
Starting with Dior Moisturizer, $135. Dior Capture View Serum, $125. Dior Primer, $50. Armani Primer, $46. Flawless Filter, $49. Chanel Liquid Head and Drops, $57. Dior Foundation, $57. Dior Concealer, $40. Chanel Bronzer, $60. Chanel Multi-Use Stick, $50. Chanel Blush Stick, $54. YSL Highlighter, $27. Chanel Powder, $56. Dior Bronzer, $50. Dior Highlight, $50. Dior Backstage, $48. These Dior Blushes, $80 total. Dior Backstage, $52. Eyeshadow, $68. Dior Eyeliner, $35. $68. Bamboo Moonstone, $24. Eyeliner, $35. Eyelash Curler, $35. Dior Mascara, $33. YSL Mascara, $35. Royal Lip Liner, $24. Charlotte Tilbury Liner, $25. Chanel Lip Oil, $48. Chanel Lip Gloss, $40. Everyday Face Setting Spray, $36. Total cost is $1,745. If you're a girl, make sure the man pays. Don't waste $2,000 on nothing.
Now that we've seen that, let's take a look at the before and the after. Now, it's just my opinion, but I actually do believe that most gentlemen would prefer how one looked before spending almost $2,000 to apply product to one's face just in an effort to try to impress someone on a first date, no less. Because it really does speak volumes that someone would spend that amount of money just to try to impress someone. And indeed, it says that women really don't do that for themselves. They do that for men.
Many modern women also tend to place a much higher value on themselves than others might. From this point of view, it makes sense because they lose nothing by aiming high. They keep putting out different expectations and standards, hoping that eventually someone will accept them.